You don't speak Spanish or no hablas inglés? No problem. We have included subtitles for English, Spanish, Portuguese and French.
If you're just gay, you don't go immediately to jail, but only if you have same-sex relationships or if you talk about them or if you publicize them. It took them a long time to change this, and Romania was very resistant. The most climactic event of this sort was when we hosted Mr. Gay Europe competition 2010-2011. We started to get threats, so the police came and the military police came to give us protection.
So earlier you used to tell me that you're also a gay activist and you're probably the first one in Romania. Can you tell us the story?
Yeah, I think it came with my first job in Bucharest. So immediately after college, I moved to Bucharest for a few months where I got a job working for the United States Peace Corps. I knew that in Bucharest there was this gay organization, and I have no idea how I found out about it. I don't remember that. I think I had started going to some gay parties in my hometown as a student during that time, which was obviously very illegal gatherings. There was this guy who had a house, and in the basement of his house he was organizing these gay parties, and I started to go to them.
But why was it illegal? I think this was after the revolution, right?
Yes, but it took them a long time to change this, and Romania was very resistant. So we had a version of where it was completely illegal and punishable by prison, then lasted until 1994. Now Romania, after the revolution, became a member of the Council of Europe. When you become a member of the Council of Europe, you have to adhere to human rights standards. Romania did not do that, and so the Council of Europe was pressuring Romania to change its laws. And so in '94 they changed it, and they said that it's not punishable by, I mean, if you're just gay, you don't go immediately to jail, but only if you have same-sex relationships or if you talk about them or if you publicize them. That's when they introduced this concept of public scandal. So if you create public scandal. And that version of the law was around from '94 until 2001, until it was repealed. And it was repealed because of the pressure of the European Union, because Romania started to talk about negotiations to adhere to join the European Union, and they told Romania, look, you cannot do that, you have to get rid of that law. And it took a long time, and there were big scandals in parliament and a lot of craziness. So I had heard about this organization. It was basically functioning legally. It was registered as a human rights organization, but it was mostly an LGBT rights organization. And it was in Bucharest, and it was doing some social events once a week where people would just go to their office and drink coffee and chat. And I went to that one. I just moved to Bucharest, and I went and I rang the doorbell, and I was like, I just want to have a tour and get to know you, and I'm from Brașov. I started to briefly date the top leading activist at that time, Adrian Coman. So we dated just for 1 month, but one evening I was at his place, and he had this book called Public Scandals, and it was a report about human rights abuses on LGBT people in Romania up until '97. And I was reading through it, and I got so angry, and I told him, you have to use me. This is insane. It's not possible that these things is happening to people, so I want to become involved. And that was when I decided to become an activist.
How was the relationship with your parents after they got to? Did you tell them personally that you're gay, or did you?
The only member in my family that I actually told personally was my mother, and that happened a little bit before I started to become public. So she didn't know that I was gay. When I came out to her, she was very shocked and everything. So I went to the whole stage of telling her. She was shocked. It took her a while to accept it. We didn't really talk about it a lot, but she was, anyway. Yeah, it was a whole story in itself. I didn't come out to the other members of my family, and they either found out from my mother or they saw me on TV. Later on, I found out that my father was gay as well. I mean, he passed away years later, and I never had this conversation with him. I'm still I regret it to this point that we never talked about it. I don't know if he knew that I found out about him, but he definitely knew about me.
You also told me that you've organized some gay events. Maybe you can tell about them and the risks involved with that, or the troubles caused.
Yeah, so I had a big project that had as a main goal HIV prevention for gay and bisexual men in Romania, and so I was organizing all kinds of activities, both in Bucharest but in a lot of other cities in Romania, organizing groups of volunteers trying to build communities. So I was recruiting leaders, getting all kinds of discussion groups together, And it was very difficult to gain the trust, and that was the first time anything like that was being done in Romania. So we were able to find people online because internet had appeared in the meantime. There were some dating websites, but people were very, very distrustful. So me and my colleague were basically writing tens of messages online telling people, we're doing these discussion groups, would you like to attend? And they were like, do you have cameras? And we were like, no, God, no, it's a small discussion group, it's 10 people like us, we rent a room, or we go to a cafe, but we rent a separate room. We don't publicize this anywhere. We just want to sit and talk about what relationships we have, about our health problems. We just sit and talk. And it was very difficult to get these groups together.
Could you also tell us about Mr. Gay Europe?
Okay, yes, the most climactic event of this sort was when we hosted Mr. Gay Europe competition 2010-2011. I knew the organizers from Norway. They had missed being able to organize the 2010 edition in Switzerland. And so I invited them to come to Romania and join one of these events because I already had the hotel. And I said, why don't you come and bring it to Romania? And my boyfriend at that time was Mr. Gay Romania. So the organizer said, okay. So they came to Bucharest to have this competition. And for the reasons that I told you about before, I was trying to keep it very hidden and very secret so that my guests, these 200 volunteers from all over the country, would not have any problems with like people outside. So we wanted to keep it very discreet. But the press found out about, I would say 10 days before all our guests would arrive from abroad, they found out that we were organizing Mr. Gay Europe. I don't know exactly how it got leaked, but suddenly newspapers and blogs started to publish, oh, Mr. Gay Europe is going to be organized in Romania. Can you imagine? And so everybody started to write about it, and I started to get phone calls from the press. And I thought that in order to keep the event under control, I should just have a press statement, and I should like come out basically in the press that yes, we would organize this competition before the competition would take place, but this is the information, you can meet the contestants and then just leave us alone. But it got pretty crazy because the press was harassing us. There were a lot of like TV stations and TV crews trying to film while we were in the hotel. We started to get threats. So the police came, and the military police came to give us protection. There were always like, I don't know how many tens of police people around surrounding the hotel where we were. It was kind of crazy.
My last question is, what do you think all humans have in common?
I was going to say humanity because you mentioned that as the name of your project. However, well, humans have in common their humanity, but I'm going to say that not all of them have that in common because there's probably humans that don't have humanity within them. So maybe survival instinct, the fact that you fight for yourself. I don't think there's anybody who doesn't have a tiny fragment of that. So maybe that's what we have in common. Now, whether that's for the better of humanity or for the worse, I'm not sure.
All right. And do you have a book that you can recommend to the viewers?
Umberto Eco's Foucault Pendulum. Foucault's Pendulum. That's a very, very interesting book, and it's amazing, and it can speak to so many people.
All right. Thank you, Tudor. Those were all my questions. Thanks a lot for taking part in this project.
Thank you. Good luck with the project.
Again in the future.
Sure.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much for watching this video and for your support. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much.